Welcome, everyone. This is RSD 13, Rivers of Conversations. This is the third session in the second day of our cybernetics series. And so we have a wonderful cybernetics program, an experiential program lined up for you today with three esteemed speakers from the Zhangjiatong Liverpool University in Suzhou, China. This is a courtyard conversation or a zoetological approach to the thinking of things. But I also, before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge that this is an international conference, and many of us are located on the traditional lands and unceded territories of Indigenous peoples, and we are grateful for their stewardship and for our presence within these places and spaces. And so today we have three speakers. We have Dr. Yiping Dong, who is an architectural historian, heritage conservation researcher, and practitioner. She is also co-curator of a series of festivals presenting contemporary art and design in heritage contexts in China. We have Feng, who is an associate architect for Co-op Himmelbau with a dual disciplinary involvement in architecture and art. Her research employs a crossover strategy to investigate the intersection between film and architecture. And we have Dr. Claudia Westermann, who is an artist and architect and embraces a systemic approach to systemic practice and employs a transdisciplinary framework that integrates contemporary art practice, design, and technological innovation. She is vice president of the American Society for Cybernetics and co-editor of the Journal of Technoetic Arts. And so I'll pass it over to Claudia to give you this wonderful experience with their work.
Thank you. Yes, when this was set up, Cheryl asked me whether we want to call it exhibition or experiential. I said experiential, but it's kind of in between. So I hope you enjoy it.
The village. Haiyan village is located at Jian Lake, the largest freshwater lake in China. In the past, the village's main activity was fishing. In this map, Haiyan village is indicated by the letter A. The lake was heavily polluted. To aid its recovery, the government has forbidden any activity on and in the lake until 2030. The streets are unusually empty because the main access to the village was closed to facilitate works on its infrastructure upgrading. Most of the local buildings are built of earth. And the village saw difficult times in the past of a more severe kind. The table shows food ratio distribution during the Cultural Revolution time. The Dianzhi art season is an experiment in initiating new meanings for the villages and towns surrounding Dianzhi Lake.
风它是代表一种文化，土其实代表的是环境。
因为我是昆明人，一直其实都有一个梦想，
如何让当代的艺术来到现实的村庄。
有人在精心的对待他周围的 环境，就是把一个建筑变成一个家的过程。
昆明是一个非常特殊的地方。
看这次我们来参加这个展，一说到昆明，大家都会很踊跃。
滇池这个地方本身就非常有力量。
The sunset. Haiyan village sunsets are known to be phenomenal, drawing the attention of both locals and tourists. Sometimes the road to Haiyan village is congested during the sunset hours. The view towards the West Hill on the other side of the Dianchi Lake is said to be hollow, which added some mystery and poetic touch. If you're lucky and get a quiet moment with fewer crowds, observe the way the sky recede into the lake, and the lake shares a scenic hue with the sky. The evening glow paralyzes a few lonely birds flying. Sunset. We wish we could take you to this site-specific installation. However, we can only take some image to share with you about our experience. Sunset Sonata aims to bring the sunset into the everyday setting of a very typical Yunnan courtyard, which looks like a pattern of a sail. So it's also called 一刻印 in Chinese, meaning signet, residence. The entrance gate is left open, so people who pass by can see the sunset. Sometimes out of the corner of their eyes, the people passing by seems to catch a glimpse of something and walk back to study what that something is. Then they see the sunset. Men, women, kids, elderly, family, friends, they began to observe, to feel, to touch, and they discuss and take photos and engage with this kind of unexpected gift out of this commonly courtyard. A highlight moment was when a seemingly ordinary girl, she took off her jacket and began to dance in front of the sunset installation. At that moment, the courtyard turned into a dynamic stage that was embedded into the Haiyan village's daily life.
Today, 4 families live around this courtyard. Things tell stories of past and present life. Things tell stories of relations. Things tell stories of craft and inventiveness, of old and new materials, of culture, past and present. Things are traces of life. Surroundings. Quite certainly, no one living thought to ever use again these things they had discarded so many years ago. But things store the stories they have been part of in a silent existence, and so do the materials a house is built of. The installation Symphony of the Everyday Sunset Sonata frames the sonic existence of materials and things in an image that becomes symphony when people visiting the courtyard trigger small piano mechanics. Visitors replay the things that once were part of this courtyard house's life. Enlightened by the setting sun, the visitors engage in a new kind of piano play, reacting to the movements of the visitors as well. The sounds of a radio that never catches a station and of a synthesizer, seemingly of post-modernity, make the newly sounding things part of a contemporary symphony that is not quite the everyday they had been part of. And yet, it is an everyday that had remained a possibility. And with this, we are at the end already, and we would like to share some links if you want to have a deeper look into either the Dianche Art Season website or the website for the project. And with this, I'll stop my screen share. I think our river guide has left to the next session. So if anyone has any questions, we are obviously very happy. No, Karen
I'm
is
still here.
great.
Very thought-provoking. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
But I'll open it up to questions from the room.
Yeah.
I thought the sun as an image, it was very provocative. I mean, just it's really simple. But then to see the shadow of, the people against that shape, it's very powerful.
I feel quite moved by the experience. Thank you. I just wanted to say that one of the things that came to mind for me is that I have a very elderly mother who's in her 97, and her apartment is a source of kind of anxiety for me. And this has completely reframed the way I look at her place. And so it's been really, really helpful. It's actually been quite transformative because I can just see her place as the way that you've described it, as opposed to sort of framing it with kind of current thinking about how places should look.
Thank you. That's great.
Well, the idea was not only to bring a so-called art installation. We would also like to improve, like with the basic infrastructure, improve the living quality. And we don't want to really just make art piece just for art's sake. Rather, we would like to really elevate the living condition. And also they got this lighting there as well. And yeah, that's what we thought we could do minimum with this piece. Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I was curious to hear whether there were any spontaneous or facilitated conversations or interactions evolving around those pieces that you managed to install and or even the performance that that went on at one point in the sunset. So I was just curious about what were those interactions and reactions and conversations that these pieces sparked.
Well, all kinds of, I mean, so for instance, that girl I was mentioning, and she just came in. I thought she's a random girl, just want to take some photos. And then she started get rid of her jacket and she started to move. Then I realized, wow, this is a trained body. She's a dancer, professional dancer. And this was totally unexpected. And then I took some photos and we discussed, we should do this later. They're the tourists, they want to see the sunset. So they agree to come back later. So this kind of things happening all the time. Yeah, that was a very extreme case. It really elevated the quality of the project, I would say. I really appreciate it. Yeah. I guess Claudia and Yiping also want to add something during their part with the sound installation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could add regarding the pieces we installed. I think there was I think I expected that people would be sort of surprised that we took their garbage and kind of turned it into something, and that was the case, and I think it was nice how they started re-looking at these things in a different way, and And for us, it was also, I mean, it was a lot of exploration, learning about how people, you know, how people actually live in these spaces. And I don't know, maybe Yiping can say something more. She had more feedback from obviously direct contact also with the village administration.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure whether my voice is okay now.
Yes,
The process we have been working in this project is quite challenging. In the beginning, we have been proposing some ideas into the internal courtyard, but later they considered the internal courtyard may interfere with their everyday routine life. Then we moved our space into the entrance part of the whole courtyard building, which also gives the more public access for the visitors in this village. I think that has already been a good interaction with the residents and also the external visitors during the whole art season. And also the later process when we started to make this whole installation, the first step is to set up the sun as the lighting, but also a beautiful scene of the whole village's main scene. And then more people came in, and also the neighborhoods also started to be interested in this project. Totally changed their first attitude when we in the village site. So and finally, when their installation about the sounds were set up, and there are more people came in to play with the interactive Sonata, and I think this makes them be curious about the modern art or this contemporary artwork, how they look into the everyday objects. In the past, these bicycles are considered as totally nothing important, but we changed their attitude, and also with this kind of interactive installation, I really feel those villagers started to see the environment differently. They started to appreciate the unnecessarily unimportant part in their previous opinion.
Yeah, I think within the context of the festival, I think this was probably one of the very few interactive installations and kind of also time-based installations. There were a lot of sculptures and obviously kind of sculptures that worked with nature in that sense, time-based, but not in terms of technology. I think what I was interested in also in this particular case is to bring the contemporary and the very traditional together and make them converse in a way that not one is overpowering the other. It's for us, I think, also an exploration to which extent that is possible.
Thank you.